All right. Thank you very much, Marlene and Curtis. Thanks for inviting me to come in and hang out and also present a couple of things here on during Tuesday Tips. So I hope that you all saw the little tagline that we gave it was better than Google Maps, some simple navigation tips for getting around Microsoft Word. So I certainly do hope that these tips are more helpful than Google Maps. By the way, Google Maps will not help you with Microsoft Word at all. So what I'd like to show you are just some things that I find as the form and format manager and being involved in form and format as much as I am, that these would be very helpful for each of you as a chair. And so my perspective as I share these are that you as the chair, you are not responsible for fixing all of the navigation or any of the navigation issues that might be found in a manuscript. But I want to give you enough information that you are able to come alongside your learners and support them. And then you can turn them over to places like YouTube and probably even TikTok probably has some tutorials out there too. But these are all geared for you and giving you some ideas as to what you can do to quickly find navigation issues and then again, support your learners in those. So the very first tip that I want to share with you as I start to share my screen is the tip that please, please, please encourage your learners to use the GCU template. That hands down helps in so many different ways when your learners are struggling, when they're trying to get around. If they're creating this template on their own, they are really going to cause some problems for themselves. And so my first tip is just ask your learners to use the template. Hopefully you can see my screen. Yes, some nodding heads and a thumbs up. Thank you. So here in this template are actually some built-in tools that help your learner to be able to navigate and to create this document without having to be a Microsoft Word guru. Now, some of those that I'm going to talk about and that are really going to play a big role in whether your learner breaks the template or if it continues to work in the way it was designed, are the styles. And those styles are, I'm on the home menu, and the styles are in one of the groups. They're called, these little segments here are called groups. And so in the styles group, if I open this up, you can see that I have, that the template rather, has multiple different styles that have already been created for the learner. The most common one is normal. That's what most of your paragraphs are going to be written in. And so each one of these styles includes the formatting that is necessary for that particular part of the template. And so when learners try to copy and paste and they try to bring over things, one of the things that gets broken are the styles. And so if we can encourage our learners to use that template multiple times in our conversations, it really does resolve a lot of those problems. Now, the next tip for you as a chair is to know where the basic paragraph show hide button is at and how to turn it on and how to turn it off and how it will help you. And so also on the home menu, now over in the paragraph group, there is this unique symbol here that looks sort of like a backward P or a backward musical symbol. I don't read music, so I'm guessing. But this is called the paragraph show hide, and it's a toggle. It's either on or it's off. By default in our template, it's turned off, but turning it on is as simple as clicking on this button once. And when I do that, you can see that at the end of each of these heading rows and at the end of our paragraph, we have the paragraph marker. Where that really, really comes into play is when I go ahead and I turn on the navigation pane. So navigation pane, if you're not familiar with that, let me walk you through where that's at. So home menu is where I've been. The view menu is where I just went. And in the show group, about the fourth group over, I have an option to either turn on or turn off that navigation pane. By turning it on, it allows me as a learner or as the chair or in my role as a reviewer, it allows me to bounce around, move around the template, the manuscript very quickly. So I'm able to jump down to where the tables are at. I'm able to quickly, for instance, with my paragraph hide show on, I'm able to quickly see that this table was created correctly. There are multiple rows. I can see that because there are little squares here. There are not hard returns every single time that someone tries to enter information. So I can see that this particular item has been created correctly. The paragraph show hide also shows me, I'm going to go ahead and scroll up to the very top of this document, and I do apologize for any bouncing around. So I'll try to warn you. And so if you get seasick from watching somebody scroll, you can close your eyes really quickly. So after the template instructions and after our 10 strategic points, with the paragraph show hide button on, I can also see where the page breaks are, and I can see where the section breaks are. And those are things that learners often, in their eagerness to change out the template, they can accidentally remove those paragraph or page breaks or section breaks. But when we turn on that paragraph show hide button, we can quickly and easily see, oh, it's still here. That's why the headers are different. That's why information is broken and down now down on the next page, which in this case, in the front matter pages, that's exactly what we want. That section break, that page break, moves us down to the very next page. So our first tip is to, again, right here in the home group, in the home menu, rather, in the paragraph group, go ahead and turn on or turn off the paragraph show hide button. It really does show you what's going on behind the scenes. The next item on here is to use this navigation bar, this navigation pane. So off to the left-hand side, remember where I got it from, which is the view menu. And in the show group, I just selected that I want the navigation pane. The navigation pane in our template is designed to show us anything that's styled in a heading 1 or a heading 2. Once we have subheadings within the heading 2, it also shows us the heading 3. So I'm going to go ahead and go down to a heading 3 item. And in our template, we have this as an example. If I go back to the home menu and I open up my styles, I can see that this is correctly styled as a heading 3. And I can tell that because it's got that heavy gray box written around it. If I went ahead and I changed it to a heading 4, let me see if I can, there we go, change it to a heading 4. It actually did not do what I thought it would do. And that is to remove it from the navigation pane completely. What it did instead was it indented it. And I don't know if you can see very, very clearly on my navigation pane, but it indented from where the heading 3 is at. And now it's come in and is designating that it's a different type of heading. So we're going to go ahead and change it back. And you notice when I do change it back that the font style changes automatically. That's because that style is styled for APA 7. And APA 7 heading 3 should be at the left margin, and it should be in bold italicized font. Now, when a learner is struggling with navigation issues or they've kind of broken some parts of the template, we'll see that in a couple of different places. And the first place that we see it is usually over here in the navigation pane. Before I switch my screen, I am going to point out there are some things in our template that we call Easter eggs. And Easter eggs are these hidden little things that pop up in our document or in a website. And they're just simply there. I think of these as being there to encourage our learners. I'm going to go ahead and, because I know it's there, and because I had this strange spacing with a red underline. After that paragraph, there's this red underline hanging out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the font color. And now you'll see that it says Lopes Up. And I look at that. I did not create the template. I was not here as part of CDS when this template was created. But so I don't know the actual purpose behind that. But I think of it as a way to encourage our learners. Keep going. You got this. Don't give up. Don't walk away when it gets tough. And when your learners find those, they can go ahead and I encourage my learners, just reveal those, change the font, know that somebody is rooting for you, and then go ahead and delete them. But those are some Easter eggs that are embedded within our template. Now I'm going to go ahead and change my screen, and I'm going to open up and share what I have titled as Proposal Broken. And this particular proposal, I had a little bit of fun with it. I changed the information out so that we don't really know who the learner is that broke this. And I've changed their dissertation topic to how millennials with a stub toe perceive their life experience in the first 3 days after an injury. So if you see that throughout my document, I was just having a little bit of fun with somebody else's manuscript and said, okay, well, I have a millennial. So as a mom, I get to say this. What would his lived experience be for the first 3 days after an injury? Well, he's a bit of a hypochondriac, so I'll tell you about that. So I kind of had an internal joke about the title of this document. What I'd like to do, though, is draw your attention over to the navigation pane. If you see, I went over to the view menu, I popped open the navigation pane, and suddenly, instead of chapter 1 having an introduction, a background to the study, I now have this strange thing about going to college and obtaining a degree. And when I click on it, I come over here and it's like, whoa, this whole paragraph, the whole page is actually in the wrong style. It's in bold. It's got, this shouldn't be this way. Now, as a chair, you might begin to see some of these things like going to college and obtaining a degree, or according to Coates 2017, you'll see these things over in the left navigation pane, and you'll begin to identify, oh, wait a minute, my learner made some mistakes. Another way that you can really see these in the navigation pane is that the only items that should be out here at the far left side are the list of tables, the list of figures, each of the chapters. Let me scroll down, the references, there we go, and each of the appendices. None of these other items, the recommendations, summary of findings, they should be indented from the chapter heading. And if I come back up here to chapter 1 and chapter 2, specifically chapter 2, I've got generations in the workplace that looks like it's a chapter heading. So those are things as a chair that would begin to raise some red flags that there might be some navigation issues. And so let's go ahead and go up to the top of our document. And I'm going to, so this is that close your eyes moment. I'm going to scroll down to the table of contents. Now, in our template, the table of contents, the list of tables, and the list of figures are all created for our learners, and they're designed to automatically update when we update the table. So as a chair, one of your tricks and tips is to learn how to update this table. When I select the table of contents, and all I've done is click into any line in the table of contents, when I scroll through here, it looks pretty clean. Like, I don't understand the bold, but basically looks pretty decent. Well, when I go to update this table, I can do this one of two ways. When you click into the table of contents, if this little box that says update table appears, when we click on it, and I've just simply clicked, I've got an option. I can update page numbers only, or I can update the entire table. And as a chair and as the operations person for AQR, I use this second option of update the entire table. And I would encourage you to do the same thing. When I click on update and I say, okay, I suddenly find that our table of contents has some paragraphs. It might even have some pictures in here. So this would be your red flag as a chair to let the learner know that there are some navigation problems. And when we coach our learners on correcting those navigation problems, we want to make sure that the learner doesn't try this trick. And I'm going to do the trick that I've seen hundreds of times from our learners. They go straight into the table of contents. They select the paragraph that's causing them problems, and they press delete. And now suddenly it looks so much better. There, Mr. or Mrs. Chair, I fixed my table of contents. Check that out. Everything looks great again. Until somebody like me walks in and I open their document and I right click and I say, update field. I want to see the whole thing. And I say, okay. And all of the problems are right there. They've not really resolved them. They've just hidden them. And so when somebody like me, or now like you, goes in and they know how to update this table, we will find these problems. Now, when you submit a manuscript into AQR, somebody like me, typically me, I will send back feedback in that determination email. And I try to be very detailed in what I'm explaining. And so one of the things that I say is errors or navigation issues in the table of contents have to be resolved within the manuscript. They cannot be fixed here in the table of contents. Again, because somebody like me will come in and we'll right click and we'll update it and we'll find all of those things that were deleted. Now, when you're coaching your learners on this, this is really the extent of what I would encourage you to talk to them about. Go ahead and I should undo that. I should go back up. When you're in the table of contents, I apologize again for scrolling, but when you're in the table of contents, one of the great features about the table of contents is that it allows you to jump straight to where the problem is. So here's my paragraph. Here's where the problem is. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to see what page is that problem at. And you'll see if I hover on the page number, it gives me the option, the information, that if I press Control and click, that I will be bounced down to that page. And sure enough, that's the beauty of that table of contents. So if I were you, I would encourage this learner to simply select the paragraph and go to the home menu and style it as normal. And that tiny tip will solve 99% of your learners' navigation issues. Just restyle it, call it normal. And most of your paragraph issues, or if you've ended up with an image, whether that's your site authorization or your IRB approval, or any of those images that are down in the appendices, if they show up into your table of contents, the easiest way to fix those is to select that item and restyle it to normal. And now if we went back up to our table of contents, me scrolling again, sorry. So it looks like it's still there. We need to update, right click, update field, entire table, say okay. And now chapter 1, at least the introduction, looks a whole lot better. So that's the other big tip that I would give you guys as chairs is go ahead and just encourage your learners, bounce down to where the problem child is at. Go ahead and select that problem, whether it's a paragraph or an image, restyle it as normal. Now, if the document gets picky, like this one just did, I don't know if you've seen it, if you noticed, but I clicked on normal like 3 times now and nothing changed. So now what I need to do is I just need to simply clear the styling. And if I clear the styling, it automatically defaults to normal. And so same trick, if I were to go back up into our table of contents and refresh or update the table of contents one more time, that paragraph has also disappeared. So let's go ahead and do that. And now chapter 1 looks really clean. You'll see that all we have now are the subheadings that are included in the template. Those are all required. So now chapter 1 looks really solid. So as far as 3 big tips, just to kind of repeat those, the first one is encourage your learners to use the template. The second one as a chair is this paragraph show hide button so that you can see what's going on behind the scenes. And then the third one is the navigation pane and some basics around updating the table of contents. Those same tricks work right here in the list of tables. So you see when I right click, I've got update table and all of them went away. And there's a reason, and that's because the tables, the label themselves were not styled correctly. But you as a chair, your step, your opportunity is to simply right click on that. Like I said, update it, update the entire table. And when, especially at level 5, when all of those tables disappear, that's your moment to reach out to your learner and say, none of your tables are showing up here. Let's look at that and let's go ahead and get that updated. Now that update or that work is explained right here on this table. So place your cursor, how to select the table itself so that it doesn't show up. So that coaching is right here. That coaching is also in the template on the first table that's listed in the manuscript. And so as a chair, I would direct your learners back to that coaching. If they've already deleted it, not a problem. They can easily go back to the DC network. They can download a new template and all of that coaching and instruction will still be there. Now, the other list that's built into the template is the list of figures. And so this is my real world proposal broken. And so when I update the list of figures, this happened to be a dissertation, so a level 5 submission. And so my big red flag here, if I were the chair, 2 things. Figure 2 is missing. The relationship of things is right here, and it's an example. So at level 5, go ahead and delete the rest of the template examples and coaching. And that would include the IRB alert. But my point really was that that trick of updating your lists works on every single list that is in the template. So the table of contents, the list of tables, and the list of figures. Those are all automatically created, or created rather, to automatically update once you have clicked on and chosen to update the table. So from a 3 tips, those are the big three that I would give to you. Marlene, I have one more thing that I wanted to share with our group, and that's actually over in, bear with me a half a second here. Where I'd like to share next is actually over in the DC network. And there are some terrific tools that are designed specifically to help you, help your learners get the manuscripts into AQR level 2 and into AQR level 5. You can call those my bonus tips. This, and we can pop this, this link into our chat. If I can find the chat, there we go. That link takes you over to the DC network. From the homepage, I clicked on dissertation, and information on peer review and getting your learners ready to be submitted into level 2 or 5 are under folder number 7, peer review procedures, steps for submitting your review. And we have a checklist for level 2 and a checklist for level 5. And all of the tips that I shared with you guys today, those are all in action when I go through the review of your document for level 2 or level 5. So, Marlene, I got to tell you, this went a whole lot faster than I imagined in my head. But I think if, unless Marlene or Curtis or anyone, you have anything else to add, do we want to open it up for questions?
Yeah, we can open it up. And I think Esther has a question. Let's see here. So Esther, for your question, if a learner is using APA 6 with the old template for the proposal and you want them to use the new one for chapters 4 and 5 with APA 7, do they have to use APA 7 for the full dissertation?
No, they just have to be consistent. So it's totally acceptable to use the old template version 8X for chapters 1, 2, and 3, and then switch over to the new template for chapters 4 and 5. Completely acceptable. The only thing we ask is to please stay consistent with which APA your learner is using. If they've started using APA 6, my recommendation is stick with it, because APA 7 really changed the game as to how in-text citations are handled. And it would be a lot of work for a learner to go back through the entire manuscript and make changes to every one of those in-text citations. So key point there, stay consistent.
And I think Sherry has a question. Feel free to unmute yourself. I think you have the option there.
I think so.
All right, let's see, Sherry, if I can, I'll ask you to unmute and see if that works.
Got it. Thank you. First
Okay.
of all, Dr. Burgess, thank you so much. This was extremely helpful. The one thing that I want to add, well, two things. Now you're showing me something I have to add because I had a different folder. That's that's a little new. But what I wanted to add is that if you instruct the learner to go to within the Microsoft Word document, go to File, scroll down to Options, and select Custom Ribbon. You can add the navigation pane, the autocorrects, which is a really inexpensive auto text expander, and the web page. You can add and the Pilcrow show hide. You can add all that right to the ribbon and then pin it so that it's always there. And when you open a document, whether it is whether it's a template or any of the GCU documents or a personal document, all that will automatically show. And if you don't want it, you could just click the little X's and get rid of it. That's how I explained with some screenshots to the learners in my group, because everybody has different versions. And
Yes,
it was the easiest way to get them to, find it, use it, and I don't have to go nuts when I get the documents.
exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and change my screen share and go back to my broken document. And so what Dr. Brown was talking about was go to File and Options, and then Customized Ribbon is here. And she's correct. It gives you all sorts of options to add to what Microsoft calls that ribbon. And that is basically that bar across the top of your document. So that's a great tip. Thanks for sharing that. Dr. Gregory also put something in the chat that I use the paragraph show hide in references to ensure that learners are using the indent format. If I can piggyback off of that, references can be a really tricky thing for our learners. And I've seen all sorts of different approaches to making a hanging indent. The easiest one that I have found, and I'm just going to select these. This learner had all of their references styled as normal. So I can tell that by just looking up at the styles. Most of the time, right next to normal is the style called refs, R-E-F-S. So that is another great one to use. Alternatively, we do have a style in here titled APA reference. So either APA reference or refs are perfectly acceptable. Form and formatters love it when learners already have that in place. And I don't think that I have a broken one of a reference, but by styling them in refs or in APA references, the broken ones stand out like a sore thumb. They are super easy to find and very easy to correct. So by styling them, just makes it a little easier for learners as well as for the form and formatters. Any other questions?
I think we're good with questions
Okay.
in the chat. All right, well, that's all that we have for everybody. We're gonna put in, let me see if I have we're gonna put the links for surveys in there one last time. We got a lot of surveys that are being sent out. And Sonia, I want to thank you for this information. We have the recording, so we'll definitely share this and we can go back to it when we want a refresher on those tips. So lots of good information. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks again for the invite.
You're welcome. All right. Well, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. You get some time back. And definitely, we look forward to seeing you next time in another Zoom.
Take care, guys.